On today's episode, we will be looking at the first 6 months of the US Stelara biosimilars market, see how competition is setting up, and also look at how the class is performing. We'll be reviewing some results from a survey that All Things Biosimilar put out, where you tell us who you think some of the most successful companies have been in the first 10 years of the biosimilars market here in the US, and also who you think will be some of the leaders in the next 10 years. And finally, a quick happy birthday to Zarxio, which, if you can believe it, turns 10 today. I'm Andrew Bourgoin, your host. Welcome to the All Things Biosimilar
Get the ill
podcast.
style and this shit go boom.
So welcome to episode 1 of the All Things Biosimilar podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Bourgoin. Thank you for joining us today. Our first big topic is the U.S. biosimilar market for Stelara, which, as many of you know, began at the beginning of this year with the launch of Stelara. And since, we've seen many other biosimilars come to the market, the most recent from Accord, which launched their product in August. Now, we're about 6 months in earnest, since most of the biosimilars launched in that late February to early March timeline. And we wanted to ask two questions. Number one, how is the competitive setting up thus far? And number two, how's the class performing? So for the competitive overview, we're going to leverage some alliteration and look at the players, the product profiles, and pricing. Starting with the players, of course, reference product sponsor here, Johnson & Johnson. They have actually launched a unbranded version of Stelara. They did the same thing for Remicade as well, so probably not a surprise to see it. And looking at the list of biosimilar competitors, a lot of familiar names. You have the Amgen, Sandoz, Teva, as well as Fresenius, Biocon, and Celltrion. Accord has also launched their product, and we are anticipating Hikma to join the marketplace as well. This will be Hikma's first biosimilar in the United States. So from a product profile perspective, we evaluate this in two different ways. We look at the status of interchangeability. Does a product have it? Are they sitting with exclusivity or not? And then the second is looking at the dose strengths and forms, presentations across the reference product label, and whether or not biosimilars carry the same label attributes with regards to those strengths and presentations. Now with Stelara, there's 4, right? They have a 90 and 45 milligram prefilled syringe, 45 milligram vial, and then also 130 milligram vial. And when you look across the competitive set of the biosimilars, for the most part, all biosimilars have all 4 of these dose strengths and presentation combinations. We will note that the Amgen and Sandoz biosimilars also have auto-injectors. They have 90 and 45 milligram auto-injectors in their label, although we're unaware that any of these auto-injector have entered the marketplace to date. That being said, when there is quite a bit of parity across the biosimilar set with regards to what's in the label, having this bit of differentiation could be a competitive advantage. Also, with interchangeability, Wezlana was the first to launch with this designation, and the exclusivity period for that ran out at the end of April. So, as you can see, there's a lot of parity there as well. And with not a lot of differentiation across your product profile or interchangeability, then really it's around pricing to be able to find an edge in this marketplace. That being said, we're seeing, for the most part, some deeper 80 and even 90+% discount for the biosimilars list prices. So overall, looking at the competitive space again, high number of competitors, not a lot of differentiation across the label or interchangeability at this point, but also some pretty aggressive discounts at WAC. All right, so that's the biosimilar class. The question becomes, how well are they performing? It's been 6 months, so this is a good time to check and see if there's any share capture on behalf of the biosimilar class. And so we did an analysis and looked at Symphony data, specifically integrated units, and measured as a percentage of total market share how well that cohort of biosimilars are doing, the biosimilar class, which here is represented in dark blue, are doing it against the brand, which is both Stelara and the Ustekinumab unbranded version. And as you can see, there's a pretty positive step up here in July for the biosimilar class. And what this tells us is that in the first 6 months, this trend up above 20% share capture is positive for the biosimilar class. If you think about kind of the trend lines for some of the other biosimilars, specifically the Humira biosimilars, it took a little bit longer to get to that number. Now, will it continue? We'll see. We're actually curious if potentially that number could be light. Is there, um, in fact, greater biosimilar market share being captured than what we're seeing here? And the reason why we ask that question is because in the Humira biosimilars market, some of the private labels that are competing and doing quite well, we have seen no longer report their data. So that means that there's sometimes significant share biosimilars, utilization or volume that is not being reported. And could the same thing be happening in the Stelara market? Two things likely have to be true for that to occur. Number one, biosimilar private label deals have to exist, and sure enough, there are. We know Cordavis has an Ustekinumab product, and as well as Quallent and Nuvela. The second thing is, are we seeing an overall decline in the total volume of the Ustekinumab class? Right, this is a good indicator for us because maybe there is some share that is just gone. Right, it's no longer volume that is being reported, but is out there. So we did do a quick peek at the overall Ustekinumab product. So this is all volume in the integrated units data. And sure enough, starting after March, you see this decline. Now, sure that could be utilization shifting to other MOAs. Think about the Tremfya as an example. But this also could reflect the fact that there is more biosimilar competition happening, and there's increased utilization at some of the private label products that just isn't being captured in the data. So what's the take-home message here for the big topic number one of episode one? Stelara biosimilars are doing pretty well. So congrats to those companies and products, and we can't wait to see what the next 6 months hold. All right, so big topic number two today is actually all about you. That's right, we're looking at results from a survey that All Things Biosimilar put out at the beginning of this summer. And we had about 50 people respond to this. It was open to anybody. It was available via LinkedIn for, I think, about 2 months. And we aggregated all the information and put it into some slides. And we're going to look at 3 of them today. If you're interested in looking at all the results, please feel free to email us and we can send you the update. So the first question that we'll review is who you thought some of the most successful biosimilar companies have been over the first decade of this market. We let every respondent select up to 3, and as you can see, vast majority of you said both Amgen and Sandoz have been some of the most commercially successful biosimilar companies thus far. No surprise there, right? Amgen and Sandoz both have 8 or more biosimilars approved. Most of them are competing successfully in the marketplace. And if you think about Amgen, they might even have more, except for the fact that a lot of the reference products experiencing biosimilar competition are Amgen products. One other thing to highlight here is seeing Coherus listed. Of course, they are no longer in biosimilars, but did play an important role in the first decade of biosimilar competition. It was good to see a shout out there for that company. Of course, we also then wanted to know why you thought these companies were successful. What were some of the attributes of the companies that led them to commercial success? And To no surprise here, we see aggressive pricing and contracting listed up at the top, as well as early market entry as kind of the two key things that companies had in order to be successful. We wanted to call out the fact that biosimilar strategy aligned with corporate strategy and strong internal culture are also listed as pretty important attributes for companies that are finding success in this marketplace. Now, to the last question that we wanted to highlight, which is who you thought leaders in the US biosimilars market will be for the next decade. And to no surprise, we see some familiar names up at the top. If you're interested in getting the full recap of the survey results, please reach out to us. We'll send you what we've put together. And thanks for those who participated. We really would like to do more surveys and get your perspective because those of you that work in this space, well, you've got a lot of great insights and we'd love to hear from you. So big topic number 3, well, big day in history. That's right. September 3rd, 2015. Now, believe it or not, this isn't just the day that a U.S. judge overturned Tom Brady's 4 games of suspension over Deflategate. No, there's something else that happened that day, and that's the fact that the U.S. biosimilars market opened. That's right, 10 years ago today, Zarxio launched. And like some of you, I remember where I was when Zarxio launched. And reflecting back, it's wild to think about how much has changed since then. It's also wild to think that some things haven't changed. This market is still quite challenging, and it likely will be for the next 10 years. And it's because some of these challenges and the constant change that exists in this dynamic marketplace, all things biosimilar exists. We try to stay on top of everything. And with this new podcast, we hope that it's another way for you to stay in touch with everything that's going on as well. So happy birthday, Zarxio. Happy birthday to the U.S. biosimilars market. And thank you for listening today to the All Things Biosimilar podcast.